I think the important thing was that we kept pursuing what we believed in.
Any startup journey is very, ups and downs.
While we kept the sustainable aspects in place, at the same time, we ensured that the luxury aspect is not compromised anymore.
Sustainability is also, because it's a buzzword nowadays, there's a lot more greenwashing also in the industry. The more we, hard pave everything, the more we will suffer in the coming years.
I think what we are saying is we need to focus on what is appropriate.
I think what it also teaches us is appreciation for the labor, because we suddenly realize that it is not as easy as it looks.
A warm good afternoon, sir. A warm good afternoon, ma'am, from the Architects Diary. And I'm Simran Khare, co-editor at the Architects Diary. And I extend a gracious welcome to TADPod. So TADPod is an initiative by the Architects Diary where we illuminate the remarkable journeys of leaders with architectural brilliance. Through TADPod, we focus on presenting curated insights from extraordinary individuals, shedding light on their creative process, exemplary philosophies, and exquisite contributions to the built environment. By featuring discussions with visionary architects, designers, and urban planners, TADPod seeks to broaden perspectives and shatter stereotypes regarding architecture. TADPod aims to foster a culture of collaboration and knowledge exchange, driving the boundaries of architectural innovation. TADPod is more than just an interview series. It's a platform for thought leadership, inspiration, and action, driving forward the discourse on architecture and design in pursuit of a better future. Today, we have with us Shriya and Prashant, the founders of Blurring Boundaries. Blurring Boundaries is a contextualist design practice in Mumbai engaged in creating sustainable and appropriate biophilic design solutions. The founders, Shriya and Prashant, believe that architecture has the power to affect the core of society and must be used responsibly. The spatial environment affects the thought process of an individual and therefore that of society at large. The firm is doing some exceptional work with its sustainable approaches and changing the landscape of architecture. Without further ado, let us begin with an insightful presentation by Blurring Boundaries, followed by an interesting interview where we delve into the untold stories of their journey. I hand over the stage to both of you.
Thank you, Simran. Thank you for the opportunity to present on TADPod. Looking forward to the interview and
So, I'm really excited to know that since your journey through architecture, like right from initial embrace of the field to focusing on a sustainable and ecological approach to design, it must have been filled with rich experiences. So, could you share some of the key moments in from both of your journeys that has led you to achieve what you have and be at what position you are today?
So I think we'll start with brickhouse. That was our one of the initial project, and while we were building the project, designing the project, we really had very mixed reactions from the people, and questioning so many aspects of it, especially in 2010 when there was not too much of awareness about these sustainable and eco-friendly approaches towards the construction. Like we left the walls exposed, brick walls exposed, and people still feel that if the house is not finished yet. But I think the important thing was that we kept pursuing what we believed in, and I think with experience comes wisdom.
a
At
little
least
bit of
little
it.
bit of it. So yeah.
I mean, Brickhouse, while building was, I mean, we were very unsure of where we were heading in terms of, because we were just out of college. But that said, Brickhouse also got a lot of recognition. So I think that was a very unusual and important, step for us, because we suddenly realized that uh, we kind of had achieved something. We might not have realized it so strongly throughout the process, because throughout the process we were focused on the structure and on the architecture of things. but appreciation and acknowledgement made a huge difference to our journey at that particular point. um, then after Brickhouse, for the longest of times, while people were appreciating it, so this is commercially, while people were appreciating it, we were not getting through to build, more projects like this. And that was also a very big learning experience for it. I mean, an architectural, any startup journey is very, ups and downs. So we finally got a chance to build a slightly more conventional project, and that kind of became a lot more relatable to people. Uh,
So I think in Asmalai project, while we kept the sustainable aspects in place, at the same time we ensured that the luxury aspect is not compromised anywhere. So I think that many people could relate to that more.
and over time, what has been a huge uh, encouragement change for us is that now people are coming to us with the with the ask of sustainability, with the ask of alternate materials. And COVID had a big role to play in this, because we also restructured the way we think. We studied a little more about permaculture. We studied a little more about holistic management of sustainability. So it was like a we realized that, you know there is never any ending to learning. And because we started experimenting even more with alternative construction, we kind of just grew from there. So what was a big step and change in our journey was also that we got clear about the kind of work we want to do. And we decided to not meander off this pathway. And that is when we realized that people are slowly, it takes a little longer because we've decided on that, but slowly people started coming to us for the right reasons. Initially it was because we were poor and cheap and hungry architects. Slowly, which is part of all initial stories. But slowly we got aware of the value we provide, and the reasons why people should be coming to us, and we got clear about being selective.
I think overall it's sense of fulfillment and the fact that we are creating better and healthier environments for the people to live in. I think that's one major thing that keeps us energized.
Yeah.
Rightly said. I mean, when we do something, when we design a certain structure, I think that sense of fulfillment is very important. I mean, apart from the recognitions that we get, a sense of self definitely tells us if we are doing it the right way or no. And I think COVID has definitely changed the way everyone is thinking, and humans have actually realized the importance of being closer to nature now.
Yeah.
So everyone wants that part of nature within their homes wherever they go. So I think
Yeah.
that has created a major shift in the thinking process of the society in general.
Yeah.
With that, I believe you have witnessed a lot of transforming design trends in architecture right from the beginning of your career. So, how do you think has the industry changed right from your inception of the career to today?
It has changed a lot, like dramatically. I would say, like I remember trying to convince clients to go for a sustainable or eco-friendly house, and they were like, "But why? Is it going to cost more? Is it going to be a pakka house?" There was that perception that an actual building is not a pakka house; it's a kacha house, and many times we would spend a lot of time, energy, convincing the clients about these things. Uh, uh, but now I think slowly we are seeing the change that people are coming to us for the right reasons.
And that is because they are much more aware.
Yeah.
They have been reading a lot more. There are a lot more people who are doing this kind of work in the industry, which was unusual. Like I remember, exposed brickwork was not something that was common at all, and today it is, extremely popular. Um, uh, Green, understanding a little more about what is sustainability is much more deep. Um, but that said, sustainability is also, because it's a buzzword nowadays. There's a lot more greenwashing also in the industry. Any and every product is green, as per the industry. So that, I think, needs a little more, uh, clarity, and a little more specific pointers to be called green and sustainable in the industry, in the market today.
I think it is important to not lose the larger picture, the larger context. Like, don't use glass in the southwest facade of the building. People are, designing it in that way and then using some glass which they claim to be sustainable. So, or put some sun shading devices, etc. So,
So what is happening is, so that's another change for sure. And then a lot of myths. There's a lot of interest in natural building, especially in the past 5 years. Because again, more and more people are doing it in the industry, and so what is happening is, so an interview like this, or you guys also promoting this idea and these conversations, makes a lot of difference to the kind of awareness that spreads. So yeah, I think
the overall change is awareness in for common people about sustainability.
Right. And I think with such discussions, or by highlighting the works of people who are doing sustainability, the real sustainability, I would say, makes a lot of difference, and it inspires the younger students as well, like who are in their budding stage of learning, and the fresh graduates. I think they realize what building consciously means, and I think that might help at least a few of them to move towards the right approach of architecture and design.
and I think what has also like changed is that, because there's so much access to social media and so much spread of these kinds of work, uh, even students, younger architects, kind of suddenly think that things are possible. What is the biggest everybody is hesitant, right? I mean, it's risky to do something new. It's easier to, when you're a contractor on site, when you're new especially, and the contractor on site is telling you, no, no, RCC is the only thing which is going to work. um, it's easy to believe that, and it's easy to not take that risk on. So that is something that social media also helps tremendously.
Right. And with the complete presentation that we saw, I just had one more question, that when it comes to having the right kind of labors, do you find it sometimes difficult to get a hold of the skilled labors, or to achieve a certain design that you are trying to aspire?
So, what it means, so there are two, three aspects. One is, we do try to work a little more with local labor, and a lot of technologies which look complicated are often very simple. Uh, but what is important is they experiment, they do sampling on site. We do our experimenting and research, and then come to site and are able to, respond with authority to their questions. So that makes a lot of difference in how work progresses on site. But that said, there are skilled labors which are getting trained. There are institutes like Hunarshala, people getting out of those tunnel. Okay, they're holding workshops, they're holding various types of small, I mean, online sessions, actual hands-on workshops. So these are things which make a huge difference to the practical execution of these kind of technologies.
But many times we work on projects which are very remote, not very easily accessible. So in those cases, we have to work with the local unskilled laborers, and that means that we have to spend a lot of time on site explaining things to them, getting some small samples, mock-ups done, etc. But in our experience, once they understand the techniques and the materials, then uh, they get hang of it very easily, and the rest of the process is like any other project.
And what we're also now trying to do is slowly develop a team of both younger architects who are understanding how. So, our role on site can be done by architects who are getting more experienced in alternative construction. Plus, we're trying to develop a labor team. So it's a slow process. We see that it'll take its own sweet time, but we do believe that a mix of local labor and skilled labor is possible to actually execute things on scale. Also, that is part of, especially natural buildings, sustainable buildings, but especially natural building. The projects do take a little longer than maybe usual projects, but the result and the ambience and the overall product is very different and unique as well.
Right, and I also think that with the designs that we witness today, you're actually redefining the term luxury when it comes to that, because people have a very different kind of perception when it comes to luxury designs or interiors, and this is something really unique. And I think many people, as the days go ahead, would want to have such kind of design where they spend the most of their time of their day.
We hope so too.
Yes. So, when it comes to sustainable architecture, the major impact today it's still seen in the rural areas more than the urban areas. So, what do you think can be done to maximize the impact on the urban areas as well?
So we think it's a slightly slower and more difficult
More challenging situation for
situation.
sure in urban areas, because the factors which affect the kind of development are very different, and very and defined by so many different forces. Uh, so so I think, for example, someone like Uland were trying to develop the facades which, with the evaporative cooling. Um, if we can try and incorporate something like that in high-rise building, I think that is one small example that comes in my mind. I think uh,
Uh, Definitely, in one is economics is such a strong driver in the city, but that said, and because construction is now moving more towards this my one type of construction where you have sheer RCC walls, then there are limitations to what can be achieved. But one is definitely keeping more, even if within the building structure we may not be able to incorporate too many aspects of construction. However, keeping a more green society, a lot more holistic measures like composting and rainwater. These are more aspects which can be easily adopted. And this is specifically, we are talking about cities like Bombay. Okay, we do believe that in cities like Pune, Bangalore, excellent work is happening because there are a lot smaller buildings, and a lot more, not bungalow culture maybe, but still smaller individual units getting developed. So uh, the important thing is to preserve that. And yeah, I think urban situations is something that we are still to kind of experiment with in terms of
Also, I think when it comes to urban levels, along with these smaller measures, what is also important is documentation of the data and the solutions provided as per that. A lot of automation can happen as per the data, and that can help save a lot of energy. So I think that is one important aspect where at urban level.
And at an urban situation, what I think is very, other than construction technologies and materials, what is very important is also how communities are treated in urban situations, because that is also a very, very strong part of sustainability. So, giving space for kids to play, giving more interactive space with your neighbors, these are more important to be and more important issues that need to be addressed, rather than just construction methods.
Right. I think when it comes to the urban aspect, it is a very slow process, as you said, and it needs to be done by each and every one of us, not just architects, but everyone who is associated to a city, when it comes to the government authorities or the planning body. Everyone, I think, plays a major role in achieving a sustainable future, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And greens is something that will, I mean, greens in all aspects. The more we, hard pave everything, the more we will suffer in the coming years.
Right, right. So, today, with the advancement in technology, how are you harnessing the power of technology to achieve sustainable and environmentally conscious designs?
So the technology is definitely helping a lot. Like we can easily create very fluid models now. There are so many systems where we can, run the actual simulations to check the overall performance of the buildings. So in the design process itself, you can again optimize your building for the energy optimization. So I think in those ways, the technology is helping a lot in this field.
And there are energy simulation softwares and experts, um, whom you can connect to kind of check just what facade makes what kind of an impact to your user.
Not just while designing and execution, but even once the user starts using it, you can actually check the performance of the building, and it's a always on learning process.
Right. I think technology is taking giving its own benefits, but it's up to us how we use it for the betterment of the people and the entire society.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, continue.
No, no, you were saying something.
So sorry, I
I,
lost the point.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, no problems. So, coming back to what we were discussing, I think when it comes to achieving sustainability, communities also play a very important role in shaping the context of the project. So,
Yeah.
could you share maybe a story of a project or other many projects which have had a massive community involvement to achieving the kind of design you wanted to have?
So we are doing a project in Karjat, which is called Pancham One, where a few people have come together, and they're trying to set up a overall sustainable living kind of a setup where they're practicing other aspects like permaculture, and we are making a natural building there for them. So what is happening is very different kind of people have come together as clients for us, and they have very different kind of things which they bring on the table. And in terms of construction, we are working with a lot of tribal local communities there, where we are training them, but at the same time I must admit that we are also learning from them, as we have started learning about these natural building processes recently, but they have been using them and making their houses using these technologies for years, for hundreds of years. So their experience also plays a very important part in the overall process.
and uh, their core understanding of how a material works, because they've been using it physically by their hand, is very different from architects, or someone who's sitting on the other side and giving instructions, who may have done a little bit, but who's not like dwelled into the material, and kind of worked with their own hands.
So we did end up holding a few workshops where a few architecture students, young architects, they come, they had a hands-on experience of natural materials. I think another important aspect here is that these local communities who have been using natural materials technologies for years, now recently have somehow stopped using them because, again, these uh, uh, that image that natural building is not a pakka building, and they want to make a RCC house for themselves. So I think that is where we are trying to educate them, and to even kind of set an example. I think seeing is believing.
So of course, there are a lot of I mean, to be uh, not just practical about the whole thing, but even realistic about it. We do see that they don't always get convinced. RCC cement is a very convenient material, but we hope that as buildings age gracefully with natural buildings, with you know. Minimal material usage, they'll see the difference between an RCC structure and this kind of, and that will hopefully make a difference. We so one is one aspect is for sure that we do not we are not, you know we appreciate modern jumps and modern like we love glass, we absolutely respect RCC, um, we appreciate the conveniences of these materials. We do not um, disregard the reasons why they've become popular at all we say is that there are times when they're not required, and it is over uh, uh, it's 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 over energy usage, that is all. So for in an urban context, we will not say don't use RCC, but that said, in a G ground structure or ground plus one structure, you don't really need to use it, so that is important.
So we are not talking about right and wrong, but I think what we are saying is we need to focus on what is appropriate.
So, and for us also, what has changed again is the understanding that let's say reinforcement, steel reinforcement is very very energy consuming. Aluminum windows are very very energy consuming. Now that said, aluminum windows are also the most convenient. So, if given an option, we avoid it. We try and use wood. We try and even PVC is a little less energy consuming compared to aluminum, but it's not always feasible. It's not always possible. We understand that,
You don't always have very good quality wood available on site or around the site,
or it's very
or it's
expensive.
very expensive. So there are practical aspects to it which we consider part and parcel of the project. And when we see appropriate, we don't say that we'll only make the natural building. uh,
But we do try and educate the client. We do try and explain to the client that this is the difference and this is the benefit, and take a call basis that. So each client then behaves as per, each community behaves as per their priority, and then those decisions are taken.
Right. I think it all comes down to what the context is of the project. I mean, you rightly said ki if it's a G structure or a G plus one structure, you don't really need to use concrete, and there are other materials we can go for. And with high rises and the bigger large scale architecture, I think with as days go by with advancements in technology, I think we might come to alternative solutions for that as well. I mean, some balance with the practical approach and the sustainable needs, I think, might be achieved as we go ahead.
Yeah.
And also the hands-on process that you mentioned, I think it's really crucial. I mean, I remember the college days when we used to have those brick workshops and everything, and it was so interesting to get your hands dirty with the concrete and then the brick and mud. It was really interesting. So I think the more we encourage this, the more educated people would be with what material it is, and they'll know more about the material as well.
And I think what it also teaches us is appreciation for the labor,
Right.
because we suddenly realize that it is not as easy as it looks. Mixing cement and making a mortar is really difficult. Or standing in the sun and kind of mixing and making mud walls is not as simple as it looks. But other than that, also, hands-on workshops, hands-on, especially during college times, making smaller models, because nowadays everybody is working on 3D. So modeling, making models, making working structural models. These are things which should not get lost in, it should not be a practice which has been foregone, because uh, it teaches you a lot of intangible things which you don't realize when you're just working with software.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think actually getting the feel of the material is very important and very crucial. While designing anything or executing anything, it's very important to understand your material, which you are not going to do while sitting in the classroom or in your office. You have to, go on the field and actually experience it. And I think that just changes your entire thought process towards the material.
Right, right. And with that, about going on the site as well, I think there was this project in your presentation about I think it was in Goa, the resort or the cottages. I think being there on that site as a young architect would be so fascinating to look at all those connecting bridges and the construction with all this forest around. I mean, it would be really an amazing experience to learn and to grow.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think we in general also enjoy seeing the
Yeah.
sites developing.
And
Right.
for example, our architects who work with us also, after visiting site and work versus working on drawings only in office, we can see the difference in their interest, in their
Right.
understanding.
Right.
And you don't always have to like, see, obviously we have a certain language, right? So another architect may not necessarily like that language, but it still teaches you a lot. So that's something that we always like. Even today, when we have an opportunity, we do visit sites of architects we admire, or architects who are doing different work. We absolutely love that kind of collaboration.
And so there's one more question, which so with the high influence of modernism and all the Western trends going on right now, what made you stick to sustainable design language and embrace the concepts of recycling, natural building? I'm curious to know that.
So I think sustainability need not necessarily clash with modernism uh, in general. Even the modern buildings in urban context can be sustainable in their own ways. So it's not that I don't think making a natural building only means sustainability.
But
So adopting what's appropriate from that context in the context that you are doing your work is more important that saying in general that oh no we are saying no to modernism.
And the thing with so in our case, because of the kind of and scale of projects that we're working with, um, I think it makes a lot of difference. because we may not be able to be this individual with a larger scale project in terms of uh, maybe not materials but individual aspects also. So uh, it is important to understand how we can adopt and learn from these traditional materials. Um, and there are times when incorporating, like for example, we went to a site where the house was built of mud, but they were using metal sheets because it was much more convenient. The use of mangrove tiles had reduced. But when we actually got into the detail of that, while they were using metal sheets, they were incorporating a layer of mud in between two sheets, and that just changed the entire effect of the internal space in terms of heat, in terms of heat gain. So they've kind of mixed these two materials and worked with it. So that is important, like that mixing of technology versus uh, context versus situation.
So yeah, I think we are in a world where all these needs need to coexist and go hand in hand together.
Right. And I think you mentioned about you having conducted some workshops as well, right? With on-site explorations or workshops. So, do you see yourself in the future conducting more such workshops for the younger students or young practices and educate them about the technology?
So we really want to conduct more workshops, but many times it has their own challenges and it takes its own time and dedication, etc. But what we try and do is that while our project is getting executed, we try and hold smaller workshops there.
And we are happy to collaborate with people who hold workshops, and we can tie it up with our sites, or we can tie it up with a workshop on our site, because what we realized was that it takes a lot of effort and time, and for a small studio like ours, it's not always easy. So we are
Yeah.
happy to again collaborate with anybody who's looking to do a workshop
Right.
on one of our sites.
I think one big advantage of holding a workshop on ongoing site is that it's not just focused on one aspect like building with bricks, but they get to see a lot of other aspects of the overall construction.
Right, rightly said. So, as we get to the end of our interview, what would be your one piece of advice for our young listeners and architects out there?
Uh, I think visit sites, visit sites, visit architectural offices. Just, I mean, it doesn't have to be with an agenda. You don't have to think about, whether it's worth your time or no. Just go explore, visit lectures, visit sites, listen to people. Not with the intention of cross questioning, but more to just absorb. Um there are times when we were attending lectures in first year and second year where we weren't understanding a word, but slowly we realized that out of 10 words we started understanding 2 words. So try and go to exhibitions, see people's work. That makes a huge difference. Don't be closed off to that kind of uh, you know knowledge exchange.
I think I would say it's very important to stick to your beliefs. It need not be the easiest way to go, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Right,
And
and yeah,
uh, be
yeah,
open be open, like don't make up your minds right at the beginning that this is the only way to go ahead with life. So start exploring what your beliefs are, and then start sticking to what is absolutely your core belief.
right, right. I think it's very necessary in architecture to have that patience and to keep believing and learning about everything that is going on around you, because there are so many things happening at the same time around you that you have to be really observant and get the good things and absorb it within your knowledge system.
And yeah, one basic advice which we are facing, which we are realizing in our offices, focus on learning how to draw, how to
Right.
actually draw and study architectural drawings, because we see that as a major communication gap between students and people coming to our offices in the initial years, that understanding or that importance of drawings
Hmm.
is has to be clear.
Basically, for
Right.
architects, it's a communication language, the way you draw. So it's very important to focus on that.
Yeah,
Right, rightly said. And I hope that this video reaches all the young architects, the practicing architects, and it makes some difference in their lives about their design approach. And thank you so much, Shriya. Thank you so much, Prashant, for being a part of this wonderful conversation today. And it was very insightful to hear about your projects, to see at your to look at your design philosophy, and I'm really thankful for you for sparing out time from your busy schedule for us.
we
And
had a good
thank
time.
you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.